How to impute data using R made easy. We are going to discuss how to apply different techniques to impute missing data. How can we calculate and fill missing information for numerical variables? We are going to understand the different steps to impute, to fill missing values. Let's start now using R. We're going to use R in Rstudio to learn how to impute missing values for numerical variables. Let's talk about the different steps we have to apply. First of all, we have to detect the missing values or some values we would like to replace them. We are going to learn that we have to, first of all, import our data. And the next step, very important, is to detect. We're going to inspect our data in order to detect those missing values or those null values we have in our data. Next, we have to understand and we have to choose which method we're going to apply. Are we going to impute our missing values by group? That means, do we have certain characteristics that we can use to group our data? If we don't have, or we have to decide, are we going to fill these missing values using the mean, the average of those values we have, mod, the median? That's we have to use now using R. Let's discuss different examples. As you can see here, I already have my data. The first thing I have to do, of course, is to run my data, and you can see certain stuff. You can detect already that my information has certain missing values in my variable 1. That second and third values or cells in this column are missing values. So I already detect and inspect my data. Now, you can see here, we can say is na, and we say df, and it's going to tell us which cells are missing values or not. So important that sometimes R could deceive us, and if you don't have the na value, could be means there is a null value, and you have to remove it, and you have to change it using the na value. Then, what is next? Well, because we already have one column with that missing value, so it's easy to understand that we have the var 1, and we're gonna detect, check here, we already have the variable number 1, and we're gonna say, okay, I only want those cells that are null or missing. Is na, the function I already used, and we're gonna say again df var 1, because this one we saw is gonna give us false true. And when we run this part here, we only are going to have this position, na and na. And next, we're gonna say, okay, I want to change. You can use the arrow like this, or you can say and use equal. Both can work, okay? For understanding that how it's going to change, how we're gonna replace it, we'll use the arrow in this case. And we say, okay, in my case, I have numerical variables, and I understand that I have to use the mean function. Let's hear. Let's say df and var 1, because it's from the same column. However, check here that when I try to calculate the mean, when I'm working with missing values, we cannot calculate the mean. That's so important. The output of using this function gives me null. It gives me a null value because I have null values or missing values. So we are gonna use now rm equal true. That means I wanna ignore those null values. And now when I calculate the mean, R can give me a response that is the mean of 1, 4, and 5 respectively. As you can see, in one single value. And then we are gonna replace 3.3 in those two cells. And that's it. Let's check now here. There you go. Now we can display df, and we have imputed those missing values we had here. If you don't want to use all these decimal values, of course, you can use round, and you say how many decimal values you want. For example, I'm going to rerun all this, and you watch it. And you can see here, I only have 2 decimal values. That's how we can use it for one single column. Now, let's continue with another example with 2 or more columns with missing values. Let's work now with this data frame. As we did before, I can easily spot the null values. I have 3 different columns with null values. Once we have detected this, So I have to decide how to do it. If I am going to go step by step with one single column at the same time, or maybe I can do it at the same time. Let's use rbase in this case. So to replace for multiple columns in one single line of code and to automatize my code, we're going to use the for function here. And we're going to say, okay, for each column, you see here, I in 1, 2, number of columns that I want here, and the f and call, sorry, here, see, number of columns, it's equal to 4, and so I will go from 1 to 4, I'm going to say, okay, I want you apply this code for all of them. You're going to say the f, now the comma, it's important here, all the rows, but here is for each single column I have. I'm going to say, okay, if you have missing values, remember as we did it before, right? This part was the variable number 1, but here I'm saying, is there any missing value? Is na, as you can see. And one more time, I'm just going to use this column here as before. It's the same routine, as you can see. Okay, and I'm going to say that must be equal to what? Okay, it should be equal to the mean, one more time, of who? The same column. Just check that I'm copy and paste. And as we did before, sorry, but I'm not gonna use those missing values to calculate the mean. Check here that this part is as before, and here is just choosing those cells with missing values because, well, those are true, those who are true. And here, because I'm going column by column, check how R is telling me that I'm repeating the same information here. So R will run from 1 to 4, following all these columns. And we're going to use this 4, and there you go. Now let's compare what is TF. Okay, I'm going to rerun everything here. TF, and run. There you go. You can see we can spot easily to where it was changed. Check that for the var1, we have the mean of 1, 4, and 5. Number 2, we had it here, that is 6 now, the mean, and so on. For the fourth column, there was no missing value, so there's no need, and so nothing changed. But you can say, okay, I want another function. Well, if you want to change, you can use the median. You can change that. You can use the median, or you can, instead of saying median, you can say no, for each column, I want to add the number 10, for example. So you can directly inspect and detect the missing values in this way, remember? Inspect and detect, and then replace it by the value you want to. In my case, I want to change it by the median, for example, in here. Or you can say that quantile number 1, number 2, or number 3, and so on. Is for you to decide. That's how we use rbase to replace in one single column or multiple columns using R.